Hey, what's going on, everybody? Joe Menza here. We're going to do another live painting demo. And one of the things I get asked a lot is, how do you improvise or make things up as you go? You know, most people will tell you to plan it, draw a sketch, whatever, and that's really actually the best advice. But there's something to be said fun, just to start painting something and just kind of let things happen. I'm doing my usual 3 coats of water here. So the way that I do it is I start off with my sky. I mean, you can have a basic idea. I mean, landscapes are basic components: trees, water, mountains, bushes. It's pretty much the same thing. I mean, yeah, you could add some flowers, things like that, some little houses, but I let the initial, my first background, what I do with the sky, sort of decide. So I go in, I do my usual with the raw sienna, and I always like to leave a little lighted area somewhere. You know, you can make the sky, if you do a more dramatic sky, you're not going to do your bottom as, you know, your foreground as dramatic. But I like to do that first. And even though you don't know if you're going to do water here or a foreground, you can change it on the fly. You can still do it. You can still do your raw sienna there with that. And I hope my lighting is, let me try to change the lighting a little bit here. I think it's a little, it's probably causing a glare. Hopefully that's better. I'm using a new camera here. So that's kind of how I do it. Let's see, let me try this again. There we go, I think that's better. Okay, so I'm gonna take and wash the brush. I don't want raw sienna on there. And you decide here, you wanna do a little blue sky, maybe a blue with a little bit of light red in it, kind of get almost a purpley effect. You know, you can go as dark as you want, as dramatic as you want. And that's kind of where I started. Sometimes I won't add the light red in there. Sometimes I'll just do, you know, blue with a little bit of Payne's gray in there. So that's my basic layout. And then again, you can still put a little blue down in here, even if you're not committed on are you going to do a water scene. But this is starting at the most basic layout. So there we have our most basic sky. Wet the brush a little bit and remove a little bit of water there. Let's put in a little bit of cloud cover there. Who knows? We may cover that with a bush at some point anyway. So at this point we really don't have it committed yet. So we can let this dry. You can let it air dry. You can pull out the hair dryer. You can give it a little blast of warm air. You know, not too much. If you're going to do some bushes, just give it a little. Like, say for example, I look at this and I say, well, I think this area here would be nice for a mountain, or I think it would be nice for some bushes. And to me, I think it would be nice to do just maybe a tree line back here. So we'll use a little bit of green with a lot of yellow in it for our first layer of bushes back here. Okay, and then as we progress, we'll add a little more blue, and that'll darken up for almost a second layer, and then come all the way across the palette to the Payne's gray and create another layer of bushes. A little Payne's gray, a little yellow. And now if you start thinking, I'm going to have some water here, you can actually start pulling this down and saying, you know what, I'm going to bring in some reflections here. And you have the makings for your reflection now. Now you're committed to water really here, unless you paint over that with something else, or you decide, hey, I'm going to do a field of greens or something. That's kind of where you're at with that. But that's nice to be able to have that option while it's still wet, pull down and be able to do these reflections while the paper is still wet. Okay, so as long as you've done that now, go to some browns here, and you're going to have to put in your landmass just to divide the two. Don't have to do this. I mean, this is what I do. So again, I'm not teaching you how to do something. I'm showing you how I do something. I'm still new at this myself, so you can watch this and say, hey, that's a pretty good idea, and you can improve upon it, make it better. You know, that's what I did. I watched videos and videos and videos and just kept trying and doing and trying and doing. I came up what was best for me. And we still got a little bit of, it's okay if this is going to reflect a little bit. And then now you can decide, okay, what do I want to do here? Do I want a little bit of some land mass here? You got brown on the brush. You could put sort of a little bit of a land mass there and just kind of get it very rustic looking. You want to bring it all the way down. Do you want to have a couple land masses coming through? You can bring this all the way across if it suits you. You can bring in, you can have some even come up to here if you want to. Bring this out however you want to do it. And just add some darkers and darkers as you go here, darker colors. And just vary it up a little bit. Use a little red in there. And you've got your foreground where somebody maybe might be standing. So now you look at this and you say, well, you know what I'm going to do here? I'm going to put a little Payne's gray on here. I just want to have a little more for this landmass coming across. And then I'm just going to soften up the reflections a little bit here. And one way to stop this from coming down like this is to blow dry it or have your painting flat. I have mine vertical like this, but if you have it flat, you don't have to worry about this stuff coming down. So let's go to, let's say we're going to say, you know what, I'm going to put a tree here. I don't really like even how the sky is, and that's a good reason to throw in a tree. If it didn't really do what you kind of wanted it to do, it's a good time to do it. So you can say there's going to be a tree here. You just want to bring that tree all the way up. And so now you have a bit of a foreground tree. And I start off some of the branches just with my hake brush. Bring in some darker colors just to kind of dress up the bottom of that tree. And at this point you can take your rigger brush and you can put as many little branches off the main trunk that you feel you want. Doesn't have to be a lot. And then you can also decide, do I want to leave this like this? Is this fall time? There's no more leaves on the tree. And you could very well leave this just like that. While you got a little brown on the brush, you can do that. You can take your card and you can scratch in a little bit. You can take my move, which is to scrape in a little tree bark here. A little tree bark going. And anything you're not happy with, you can always kind of come back and just add a little bit. Add a little bit of just the darker color again. And just kind of touch that up a little bit. So you got that. You can say, well, I want to kind of balance this out a little bit, or I want to put in a little bit more of a distant tree, and you could put one off of this little peninsula here. It's not going to cover the whole screen, the whole page, but that's what you can do with that. Take your rigger brush again and bring out some more branches here. And then maybe say, you know, this guy, he's still got a few little leaves on him that haven't fallen yet. For fall. You can even do that just a little bit. Still waiting for some of those branches to fall. And give this guy a little bit of a base here. Now for this foreground here, just going to add a little bit more darkness here. You can take again your card and you can scratch in more grasses. You can say, yeah, I'm going to add a little rocks here, just to add a little bit of a light. Maybe it's a little bit of a path that comes down. Somebody stand there, put a little bit of rocks and some grass back where this tree is. Maybe if you can see a little bit of the bark, give it a little bit of a tone dimension, and then come back and touch up maybe this little area of rocks right here. Dry brush in some more grasses. And you can even take your card, you can make a little bit of a shoreline with it. You can take your almost dry hake and you can run it across with a very flat brush and maybe make it look like there's little ripples going through the water. Not a bad time for that. Sometimes I'll take a paper towel and rub it, or I'll come back with my gel pen and I'll do that. But you can run that through. You can take a finger even and just, you can make little ripples in the water there, your fingernail, however you want to do it. Little ripples there in the water. And you got your reflections coming down, which looks very nice. A little bit there. And now you could just kind of play with little details. If you want to get very, very detailed with it, you want to try varying your darks and put a little bit of Payne's gray in here. You want to put little dots in there to look like little willows. Give it a little more realism. You can come back with your rigger brush and actually put in, little quick little grasses like that. Or maybe you decide, well, it's too much. Rub them in a little bit. They look a little bit too much. Nothing you can't really fix. You can always come back and add some little grasses. If you're not happy with the way something comes out, be afraid to go in and just kind of make it into something else, you know? Add a little, let's add a little bit more light here, I think, just for balance sake. Looks like something you can almost kind of walk on. Give it a little character there. And that's really it. The last thing you could do is you could take your small brush, or you could do what I do. I take my pen and I just make couple of little birds flying. And that's it. The last thing to do is to do a signing of it. Put your name to it. Somewhere out here. And that's it. I'll show a little close-up of what it looks like, but that's just a real general idea on how to do sort of a improvised from your imagination's painting. Thanks for watching, everybody. Okay, so here we have our final painting. Probably looks a little different, slightly, just being head on like this now. Let's kind of zoom in and you'll see some of the stuff we did with the sky. Notice that this dried back quite a bit from where we were. You can rewind it and see. Got some nice colors back up in here. Here's where that little cloud was coming through, which worked out pretty nicely because you have this dark tree offset off of this light. So it works out pretty nicely that way. The one thing I wasn't real thrilled with, you know, I had worked on those reflections here and then I tried to do a sweep across. I probably would have taken a flat brush and done those sweeps to make the little ripple in the water if I was taking my time with it and I was off, not on camera. But even still, I think this works okay. You have, you know, sometimes when you look toward the land, you see a little bit of the water getting a little brownish just from being, you know, right around the shoreline there. Then, of course, we have our little rocks that they cast very nicely because they have you light, and then you have the dark, and then you have the light again. So that kind of dazzles the eye a little bit. You have that, and then you have this tree that's set back a little further, and there's just some details to capture your eye right there. And that's what I try to go for in these. I try to make sort of opposites. You get light and dark and light and dark, and it creates some drama. And when you do it right down the middle, it's like getting that bowling ball down the middle and rolling a strike. And it looks real good. Just some things that kind of components that sort of dazzle the eye. So hopefully you got something out of this. If you did, please subscribe, comment, and all that kind of good stuff. And check out my eBay shop. I usually throw these on eBay, and I try to make a few bucks just to buy some more paint tubes of paint. As if you're painting, you know how expensive this stuff can be.